Let's get some perspective now from Philip Yoon. He is the Executive Director and COO of the Ploughshares Fund. He comes to us via Skype from San Francisco. Always good to see you, sir. Donald Trump said Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons today. He said is. That flies in the face of what his own intelligence chiefs say, what the IAEA says, any number of other experts. Is there any evidence that Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons?
Absolutely not at this point. I mean, the IAEA, we've got inspectors on the ground. They've been very clear that Iran has been keeping their part of the deal, which was designed to stop in its tracks Iran's ability to produce fissile material, which is really the critical stuff that goes on top of it, that's part of any nuclear weapon. So I think this is, in certain ways, fake news in that respect. It's something that we know Iran wanted to do over a decade ago, and this is something that we had known about. It's just that this recent trove of materials divulged by Israel is just basically verifying what we already knew.
Yeah, exactly. And the president also said we cannot prevent a nuclear bomb under the structure of this agreement. Is that so? And, what does pulling out do to that?
Yeah, I think that, again, this is hyperbole on his part. This agreement is the most comprehensive non-proliferation agreement that has ever been produced, hundreds and hundreds of pages, and it does stop Iran from producing nuclear material. The ramifications of this are, it's really up to Iran. Iran can stay in the deal, and hopefully that they can salvage this, as was discussed a little bit earlier. But there's a real possibility that since the United States' violation, Iran is under no obligation to stay under the accord, so it could very well start reprocessing, and that might be an option that it starts to pursue. We just don't know yet.
And we were talking about expirations there a minute ago too, and many of the provisions do expire after 5, 10, 25 years. But it's true, is it not, that the agreement does specifically say that Iran agrees to never acquire a nuclear weapon?
Yeah, and one thing is that this deal is not perfect, but it's quite good. And in certain ways, you don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. What we do know is we've got IAEA inspectors and inspectors on the ground right now. So to the extent that you distrust Iran, you want to have people on the ground that are looking from what we call cradle to grave. When this nuclear material, the uranium, is being produced, we have monitoring devices, inspectors that go all the way through the process here. You want those people there. It is theoretically possible that by scotching this deal and letting the deal go through, we will have no eyes on the ground, absolutely, and there we will be completely in the dark.
If Iran were to restart its nuclear program, I mean, what would that mean? As some have suggested, we would then see a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. If Saudi has a bomb, if Iran has a bomb, the Saudis will want one, Egypt will want one as well. And of course, Israel is widely assumed to already have a nuclear arsenal.
Yeah. I think that's a distinct possibility. In fact, if I were Israel, the last thing I would want to do is encourage Iran to develop a nuclear device or a nuclear weapon. I think, that's something that we definitely is a real possibility, and we have to worry about.
Okay, just quickly there, what is the best outcome from this?
The best outcome is that Iran basically keeps its head cool, that the domestic forces are not going to require Iran to pull out of the agreement and restart. That way we avoid a crisis, because what would happen is then the United States would be forced to choose. Do you accept what Iran is doing, which is restarting its nuclear program, or do you use force? So there's a possibility of a war. Iran, if it's smart, will try to keep it intact and just let it go, complying with the agreement for the next year or two. And then hopefully, and from Iran's perspective, that there is a change of policy here in Washington with the change in Congress, and that something can be worked out. I mean, here we had a situation where I agree with Donald Trump. You want to make the agreement better. Keep the agreement, add to it. And what he's done, in effect, is basically scrap everything with no alternative B. And this is where we're at right now. So Iran is hoping that we will come back to the table and they can work something out with the other 5 partners.